Today we're going to look at 3 tips to help you get an accepted offer in this crazy seller's market. What's happening? I'm JC with the Agajanian Group, and today we're looking at 3 main tips to help you get an accepted offer in this challenging and competitive seller's market right now. So let's get into the first one right away. The first one is kind of obvious, but it needs to be said, and it is basically to be prepared. Now, this isn't the basics that we're talking about, like making sure that you have a pre-approval completed. Of course, that's going to be expected. It's going to go beyond that. We're going to ask you to do things like customize a letter, telling the seller about yourself and who you are. And more importantly, we're going to ask the agent to do their job. What I always do is to first get in rapport, make sure I am aware of who the agent is on the other side, make sure we're aligned and that we understand that we're both professionals and that we're going to get the job done. An agent is also going to be making the decision along with their seller as far as who they're going to select to work with as a buyer. And one of the things that other agents on the listing side are most concerned with is completion. Who's going to follow through, make sure this deal closes, and with the least amount of headache to both the seller and the listing agent. So making sure you have a great agent on your side to establish rapport, make sure they know what's going on with the transaction and what the seller's needs are is going to be important above and beyond making sure you have your financial matters in order. The next thing we're going to look at as far as tips to help you get an accepted offer in this competitive seller's market are the details, the terms and conditions of your offer. One of the biggest things we look at as agents in this industry working through transactions are the contingency periods. Those are important, and those are the things that are basically the buyer's due diligence. They're learning about the property, seller already knows all about the property. So there's lots of stopgaps that would allow the buyer to exit the contract based on what they've learned as we move forward. So one of the things we do is shorten those contingencies up. What does that mean? Well, we're going to go ahead and get our inspection done, for example, in, let's say, 10 days instead of 17. That means we're going to have the confidence to the seller knowing that, yeah, we're good to go a whole week sooner than maybe a competitive offer might. Another thing that you can do, which is a really cool strategy, is to see if you feel comfortable pulling one of them right out the gate. The big contingencies we look at are loan approval, home appraisal, and physical inspection. There are others, but those are the big ones. So if we can line those dates up to be together and maybe say, hey, don't worry about that appraisal, we're going to waive that right out the gate. Well, if we have that timeline matched up with our physical inspection timeline, we could still run into some problems with the appraisal and use the inspection as a way to back out as opposed to saying we got an issue with the appraisal. So aligning those timelines and maybe removing one of those contingencies is a really strong play as a buyer in this market, and you would still be protected at the same time. The third main tip that we're going to provide you today is it's something that a lot of people don't think of when they're putting offers together, but let's go ahead and think about that seller and cater to them. This kind of circles back around to the first tip, which is making sure you have a great agent with lots of experience that knows how to read the situation. But what we want to do as a buyer is figure out what's important to that seller. Do they need a quick close? Do they need an extended period of time after the close of escrow to stay in that home? Are they landlords? Do they have tenants that have a lease that we need to accommodate? Whatever the situation is, we need to poke and prod and figure out what's most important to that seller and see how we can best accommodate so that we are the ones making their lives easier and therefore getting acceptance on our contract as opposed to one of our competitors. So, to wrap it up, we basically have 3 main points. We're going to want to be prepared, we're going to want to focus on the terms and conditions, primarily our contingencies, and of course we're going to want to cater to that seller. Believe it or not, I've got some other great tips and tricks that I use for my clients, and I'd be happy to share those with you if you're interested. Give me a call at 619-224-9898. I look forward to talking to you soon.